So we were just talking about how long you guys have each been on the system. So Mark, you guys went live with it just about 3 years ago.
Right.
Um, so what was your process like before you had bulk gas manager versus what you're doing now?
For us, we had a manual spreadsheet in Excel with like the last delivery dates and the quantity of the product that we delivered. And the dispatcher would go through that each Friday and try and put together a route for the next week. Um, Basically, guesstimating where and when to go, looking back through delivery dates and quantities, which took him probably 6, 7 hours a week to do the next week's.
Okay. And how often were you guys called out on emergency deliveries, or did you have to adjust that route because you got a call that said, "Hey, we're out," or "We know we're almost out"?
Yeah, there was always adjustments happening and outages. You just kind of plan for that it's going to happen a few times a week.
Hmm. Okay. Were you guys using telemetry at the time, 3 years ago, before you came on bulk gas manager?
We're not using telemetry on like our CO2, mostly on the bulk tanks, the big bulk tanks.
Hmm. Okay. But were you using that prior at all, even with the Excel spreadsheets?
Uh, no, we were not.
Okay. Okay. So Nick, you guys have been on it almost a year since you went live on bulk gas.
Yep.
So can you describe a little bit your process prior and what the difference is now?
Our process before having bulk gas manager was we use scheduled delivery, and when we would bring a customer on, we would pretty much guesstimate how often we should go there based on tank size, things like that, and of course what usage they said they would do, and how often we revised that was as often as was as accurate as the deliveries would be made. We did have a supplemental Excel file that would run. And it would help us guess based on TIMS deliveries when another one might be due. But really, primarily before Bulk Gas Manager, we used scheduled deliveries. That, as you know, left us open to a lot of inefficient deliveries, not hitting customers when they were most empty. Is pretty much just, hey, you're every 6 weeks and I show up, regardless of usage. So, Bulk Gas Manager has allowed us to real time, either through telemetry feeding in, tell us where our most empty vessels are, or um, does it on, say, simple depletion of the tanks based on past usage. So, Bulk Gas Manager has improved our ability to hit the cylinders when they're empty.
So Mark, you had said that before you had dispatcher that probably spent, up to 7 hours a week trying to create the route and the stops for the next week. So now that you're on bulk gas manager, has that time decreased significantly, or I guess where does he best use his time now?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, with uh, our routes coming out of our St. Cloud location, we've got like 350 customers on that one. It's fairly small. Like I said, he did 6 to 7 hours a week. He's probably down to 45 minutes now to create the route for the next week. So we've gained 90% of his time almost. And then we've got another branch with roughly 2,500 customers. She was spending over a day and a half to do 1 week's route. And now she's down to under 3 hours or 3 to 4 hours.
Nice.
So huge, more efficient for us. The guy that does our deliveries here in St. Cloud, he can now go out and do other things, either installs or repairs and stuff at the same time that he would have been creating a route.
Great. I was just asking how many resources you have that were managing routes or trying to create routes before, and then how much time does it take now, or where have you seen efficiencies with actually populating the routes for upcoming deliveries?
We've got one CO2 manager, and he was there before Bulk Gas Manager. He's still there now. It definitely freed up his time. I can't really quantify it, but he was pulling tremendous amounts of overtime before. Um, but not a great answer there. I can't
That's
really
okay.
quantify that one.
Nope, not a problem. Okay. Um, so I guess then we'll move on to the next one. Where have you seen the biggest impact in your business since you've implemented Bulk Gas Manager? I mean, do you feel like you're able to provide more, or you're able to bring on more customers, better response, or I guess, have you heard comments from your customers? What's been the impact?
The biggest impact for us since Bulk Gas Manager would probably be going paperless. It has having doing our business without paper floating around really tightens up a lot of different processes. So when someone makes a delivery through TED, on a bulk gas ticket, I mean, the person that's going to select the order knows right away that it was done. So we're not waiting for traveling tickets to float around and make it to make it to the selection process,
Mhm.
um, as well as hitting our vessels when they need to be hit. The delivery forecast tool, which would replace the scheduled delivery, you can see all your tanks in order by the most empty. And when they go to flush tickets, they can just flush them directly into our dispatcher's scheduling tool. And there's not, hey, check your printer for paper, check, all those different places where tickets get lost. Everything is happening electronically, and we're seeing our tanks when they need to be filled. So that's been probably the biggest improvement.
Okay. Mark, how about you guys? What have you seen?
Yeah, I guess the biggest impact for us is the time savings. Um, when you can take three dispatchers that were spending probably a full week doing it and now only spending one day, if you gain 4 days of time, yeah, you can use those in other places. Also, the inefficient routes we had and unnecessary stops because you just had to go there to make sure that they didn't run out. You didn't know what they had in the tank, but we just did those milk runs all the time. And then we had delivered to certain accounts because of the time that passed. Often these stops weren't needed, but wanted to make sure they didn't run out. And then with bulk gas now, we're able to use all that historical data that's set up in there. That's continually updating to make these routes way more efficient. Um, that and plus just running the proper, not the routes, but the proper areas, because
Mhm.
we would be jumping all over to catch the ones that were low.
Sure. So do either of you take advantage of the link codes function within there, or you find someone that, oh yeah, we should stop there, or are you finding that bulk gas is kind of already catching them?
Absolutely. Yep. We use link codes. Um, not that much, but it works really good when you're going to a certain area to have those tied together. Yep. So
Mhm.
you always look at those.
Good.
Yeah, our link codes are pretty much the cities, and if I don't catch enough customers with that link code, then I'll expand it into a neighboring city that's further away, and that's kind of how we built that out. So when you head to that area, um, those other ones are served up to the dispatcher when they're flushing tickets.
Okay. And so, extending on that as far as the changes and the impact, but what do your users say about it since you've implemented the bulk gas along with TED? Um, do they Are they happy with it? Was it a struggle to get people to adapt to the new method, or what was their response to implementing these applications?
For us, yeah, it took a little bit getting used to for the dispatcher. Um, when we were implementing, uh, a few weeks into it, he said, I don't know if this is going to work. It's just not lining up with our old way of doing things. And I said, well, we just got to keep using it, got to get some data in there, give it a little time. After a month or so, I kind of played with him a little bit and said, yeah, we're going to pull this program. It's not working for us. And he's like, oh, no, nope. He said, this is working now. We got everything down. He said, I cut my time way down. It's so much easier to do. So, yeah,
Nice.
yeah, a little bit a learning curve at the beginning, but
Mhm. And what about the drivers when they were adapting to TED? Because I'm assuming they had to take paper tickets out before. Did they adapt to TED fairly well, or was there
um,
resistance there?
yep, that actually worked out really well. We were on the handhelds before this and then
Mm,
moved to TED.
okay.
Which was a really easy conversion. Training on the old handhelds took hours, but with TED, it's not very long. They can ride with another driver for a day, and they're all lined up with it.
Nice.
I'd echo all that. There's no way I could take bulk gas manager away from our CO2 dispatcher now.
You know,
He's not going backwards.
you know,
And then as well, that little comment about Ted, the training time on Ted is
minimal.
minimal
Yeah.
compared to the old one.
Great. I guess, do either of you have a favorite feature of bulk gas? If you were to say something that overall you're like, that was the trigger point, or that was the one reason that we can prove, our ROI, or the biggest bang for a buck, or whatever you want to say, what was your favorite feature?
For us, I mean, we had a couple of things that were big to us. The flexibility of the system. It works so well with whatever type of customer you have, if it's an automatic or a weekly delivery. And then the ease of implementation, because you have the ability to do like one route or one location or one branch at a time. That and all the efficiencies that came with it.
For us, my favorite feature would probably be delivery forecast. Just seeing all your empty vessels right in there, highlight from top to bottom, and generate tickets. I mean, you can create 50 tickets in 10 seconds, and that's huge. We don't actually print them, so then they're digitally created, and then they're routed directly into scheduler. The dispatcher then takes them, drops them on the day that they're going to go to get delivered. The driver logs in that day, and there's his tickets in order to deliver. All of those applications working together in one single system is a huge efficiency gain for us. So that's also not necessarily just bulk gas manager, but bulk gas manager is a starting place for that whole delivery process to be very seamless.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the paperless environment of bulk gas now, that you can export that spreadsheet, just scan the orders into TED, process them, and they're back in TIMS live.
You guys are putting those into like an Excel file, and then they have, a bunch of different tickets to deliver, and then they use direct mode.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So it right now in bulk gas, it exports to Excel directly. We have to do a little manipulation to it, but they're cleaning that up. But once that comes out, they just scan the order barcodes into TED.
Gotcha. And then you're using probably the delivery trip report then to print for them, give them like a
No,
summary of their stops.
no, that basically that spreadsheet is their summary.
Okay.
They know where they're going. They know their routes pretty well, and they can scan them in the order they want to go to them.
Gotcha. Yeah, scheduler for us, that's probably the biggest hurdle is just we don't allow them to readjust the stops. So
Yeah. So
gotta
you're
be like,
using Scheduler.
yes.
Yeah, we didn't really even look at it yet, but this has been working, so
Yeah.
we're holding off on it.
Now, Nick, do you guys use Scheduler only for your bulk gas deliveries, or have you incorporated all of your routes into Scheduler?
Slowly but surely. Scheduler, we have out our whole East region, be 2 branches, 4 trucks. CO2, we run 2 trucks out of Sandusky on scheduler. The same dispatcher dispatches those 2 trucks. We have a centralized dispatcher here in Sandusky that actually dispatches the East region for them. And then our Columbus, we run a truck out of Columbus for CO2, and the same dispatcher dispatches all of his trucks out of Columbus. Still working on the rest. It's due to everything else, a lot of the branches, who's going to do the dispatching, things like that. There's a lot of roles to play, and you got to kind of figure out who's going to do it. And the West goes live on scheduler next Monday, and then we pick off a few of the other branches when I start working with them. But yeah, I'd say we're about halfway complete on scheduler for now.
So how much did Scheduler change your operation from before to after? Or how is it used?
Yeah, scheduler changed our operation. So, say for instance, a regular route truck, we've got a central dispatcher here out of our headquarters who does all the scheduling for them. So that would be probably one major change where we're not relying on the branches to say
Okay.
build their routes and waiting on maybe orders to come in or things like that. So that would probably be one big change to how we
So
operate.
it's one central dispatcher then.
He routes 4 trucks out of Sandusky for our east region towards Cleveland.
Okay.
Um, I didn't know if we were going to be able to do that model throughout the whole company. I do want that model, but I am going to be training the branch manager on scheduler on Monday, and he's going to be in charge of his trucks out in Toledo. Um,
Okay.
but I just wanted to limit the number of dispatchers I had to worry
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
and I'm out of Sandusky, so it makes it very convenient when there's issues, and certainly when you're implementing a new product, to have your dispatcher right down the hall as opposed
Yep.
to
Yep. Absolutely.
so. But yeah, other than that, I mean, the all these applications working together are great. But yeah, we've been slow to get bulk gas manager out for oxygen, nitrogen, argon. Those are still running out, say, old way. The drivers just create a ticket when they're doing the delivery. CO2, we have so many more vessels to worry about. That's why it really was a key there. But
Right.
they are on the roadmap. I'm just dragging my feet because I know it's um, you're gonna want to cut this part. It's gonna add a little bit more work to the process of getting delivery tickets made for some of these other service lines. Whereas CO2, I mean, we're creating 100 tickets a week or more. We're not doing that in the other service lines, so
Right.
fine.
Yes.
And I never touched on telemetry, but we're in the process of we're about 25% through 200 telemetry devices getting rolled out, and the integration into bulk gas manager is awesome. It allows us to really see where those tanks are and understand how full they are. So we're about 50 devices deployed right now, and we're without a data.
Okay, great. And then I guess kind of back up a little bit then, throughout the implementation process, maybe you can discuss a little bit of what that process was like for you getting things set up and CU's involvement with that, if it was positive, hopefully, and what CU's role was for you guys in implementing both
Yeah,
gas.
for implementation for us went uh, pretty smoothly. What I did is I developed an Excel template, exported all of our current uh, CO2 beverage and bulk vessels, and then I went ahead and built a column for every single field that was going to need to be populated in the installations, and then me and the CO2 manager just pretty much populated that Excel file. The plan was to actually have somebody on the admin side kind of assist him, but that fell through. So then I was the admin side, and I ended up creating the majority of these manually. We opted not to import them. There just wasn't enough. It was kind of on that borderline whether there was too many to enter yourself, but I used it as an opportunity for training.
Okay.
Yeah, we did basically the same thing. Pulled an Excel file out of TIMS, populated all the columns that we needed, and imported them for each branch or each location. We did that all at separate times, but that was pretty seamless getting those in there. Um, and then just working with CU on getting, well, after we had all the data in, we were fine, but understanding how to use the system took a little bit, a few weeks of hand holding to get it going, and then we were off and running.
Great. And
Mark, can
then,
I ask, when you enter like 750s into bulk gas manager, are you entering the amount? Are you entering them as 750s, that numeric value, or did you enter them as a different number, like lower than 750 to make them pop sooner, or higher than 750 because they're really a 789 or something like that?
Right. I don't enter those anymore. I just got the initial setup done.
Sure.
But I believe they're putting them in as 750s.
Okay. I was curious about that. We started at 789, I think, the true volume of the vessel, but I've
Right.
actually thought about lowering that to some lower than 750 number just to make them
Trip a little
hedge
bit.
us a little bit against runouts.
Yep. Yep. They'd pop up a little early.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess, Mark, now you've been on it for 3 years. Have you guys seen changes in the application since you started? Improvements? Do you feel like CU is responsive to suggestions or
Um,
improvement?
yeah, absolutely. We've been going through a lot of changes from the beginning. I know there was quite a few updates done. I can't remember all of them specifically, but right now the big thing we're working on is getting the export into Excel, so there's no manipulation to it. That was one of the biggest things for us because we started that part on our own. When we exported it, we assigned a barcode to the order number so they could scan these orders in and not have to print tickets anymore. Because when we started, everything was we were printing tickets for all of those orders, and even though we didn't use them, that was the only way to scan those into TED.
Okay.
So that was a huge improvement. But yeah, we worked with Nikki quite a bit on upgrades throughout that 3 years.
Great. And Nick, I guess, have there been suggestions or changes that O.E. Meyer has proposed or can see that you've made to CU's development that they've been responsive to, or anything you feel the system could do better?
Suggestions to bulk gas manager as far as improvements go. The main one for us is service integration. We'd really like to somehow document the work that our technicians do in a reasonably logical way associated to these installations. Keeping like a service record. All my improvement requests have been services related to bulk gas manager.
Mhm.
I don't know if they feel like that's the right home for it, or what, but that's really the place where I see the next frontier of how Bulk Gas Manager could really help us is
Mhm.
um, either integrating into some sort of separate service module or allowing for those installations to really exist in TIMS and then start associating your service work to them, keep service, records,
Mhm.
allow those service records to follow to say if we pick up that tank and take it somewhere else, set that tank, all that travel. We really could do a lot better job with that
Yeah.
record keeping and such. And then also I would expect them to flush those service, hey, this is ready, just like a delivery is ready, flush the reminder to actually go out to the customer site and do that work.
Mhm. So are you using the retest dates on the installations at all to help with that?
We did not build those out because they don't actually throw up anything, if I remember correctly. They kind of come into like a separate queue, and
Yeah,
then
you have to filter them. But,
yeah,